Hello students, how are you all? Today we are going to discuss a very important topic as far as entire statistical knowledge is concerned, which is nothing but understanding about sampling techniques or sampling methods. Understand? The sampling techniques or else the sampling methods teaches us actually how to select, how to pick a sample from the population. So this is the third unit, last topic. If you connect the other topics, whatever learned in this third unit, what is that? Previously we came to know that the scaling methods and as well as the data types, like what we called nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio type. Okay, and also we came to know that the what we called procedures to develop questionnaire, framing of what we call the questionnaire. Understand? So all these things we are now going to use in these sampling methods. So for conducting or is what you call for collecting any kind of data beforehand, you should have the complete information about the sampling methods. The way you are going to pick the sample from the available population. Understand? Now as far as the sampling methods or sampling techniques are concerned, now we are going to have various wonderful terminology, definitions. Understand? So we should understand about all these definitions. Okay? Now let us see. Sampling. What do you mean sampling? Sampling is nothing but the activity whatever you perform to select the sample. Understand? So here what is that? What is your population of interest? To whom do you want to generalize your results? All doctors, school children, Indians, women aged between 15 to 45 years and others. So here when you are resorting to pick a sample, you should know actually what is your population. Don't confuse the population with that of what we call in social studies, whatever you read already in your 10th standard. According to that, the population means the group of people which are living in a square kilometer area. But in the world of statistics, population carries altogether a different meaning. The one more name for population is nothing but universe. Don't compare with space. This is synonym for population. That is universe in the statistics. Understand? Population, universe, both are same. Then what do you mean by population in the statistics? Strictly speaking, statistical population. The statistical population is nothing but the group of individuals, the group of items, the group of articles with life or without life, on which you are conducting any kind of statistical investigation. What do you mean by investigation? Investigation is nothing but the pool of activities which allows you to identify the what you call internal truth. So here also what kind of investigation you are performing? Statistical investigation you are performing to understand about the population. In that population maybe you are having human beings, maybe you are having animals, maybe you are having cars, maybe you are having what you called two-wheelers, auto rickshaws, shops, whatever may be. Anything can be considered as a population. But particularly you are going to perform some kind of statistical investigation, or is what we call that the statistical research. Let us suppose that the Bajaj Auto Company wants to know, okay, in Hyderabad city, their Bajaj auto rickshaws, how much mileage actually they are giving to the customers. Understand? Comparatively other cities, let us suppose in Hyderabad we have what we call flat roads only. So driving in Hyderabad somewhat easy comparatively those cities which are of what we call hill stations. So here based upon the geographical condition and based upon the maintenance of the vehicle, there are so many parameters will be there which affects the mileage of any vehicle. So here the research is going on specifically the auto rickshaws which are plying in Hyderabad, not even in the Secunderabad. That means all the auto rickshaws which are plying on Hyderabad roads only becomes what you call the population. You should not involve the auto rickshaws which are plying after the tank bund, because after the tank bund what starts? The Secunderabad limits will start. Understand? So this is a very, very important point you have to bear in your mind before resorting for what you call sample selection. What is going to be my population? So, after analyzing the population, you are what you call generalizing that information to the other what you call the levels of the population. So, I mean to hear the mileage whatever recorded in Hyderabad city auto rickshaws might be generalized to Secunderabad cities what you called auto rickshaws. Like what you called, you take one more state, Karnataka, or else you can extend to that information to the Tamil Nadu. Bigger, what you called scope if you want to have, you can compare this information that of throughout India also. What do you call that nature? Generalization. The main purpose of what you call understanding the sampling methods is nothing but through the population information, you are generalizing that information to the whole. Okay. Now here the examples provided are, if you want to understand about the doctors and their what you call the skill set as far as what you call the performing the surgeries are concerned, or else what you call diagnosing what you call the disease in a patient is concerned, then what happens? All the group of doctors will become what you call population. Now, if you want to understand how many children actually willing to go to school, because almost 2 years gap arise. So, because of this gap, what happens? The children may not be showing interest to go to the schools. You can perform what you call a research. Then all school children will become what you called population. So whenever what you call big organizations are coming to understand about the nations like UNO, United Nations organizations, they will conduct what you call taking various aspects on different what you call continents, assuming as countries itself their what you call populations like India. So related to women, if any kind of research is going on here, the entire group of women between that 15 to 45 years becomes a population. So here what do you know population? Population nothing but the group of people, the group of individuals, the group of items, the group of articles on which you are conducting any statistical investigation. Not police investigation, not CBI investigation. What investigation you are performing? Statistical investigation. Police investigation means you find sniffer dogs. All other things you will find. Okay? So let us see all the definitions. So here, when you go for sampling, three factors are going to what call affect. The first one is the sampling procedure, sample size, and the participation of what you call the respondents. So very shortly we are going to understand about the sampling procedure. The sampling procedure, lets you to understand actually how to pick the sample. There are so many methods are there. And also sample size is nothing but based upon what you call the population, you need to what you call a sample size which is convenient, which is what you call going to help to you to extract the entire information about the population. Hence the size of the sample is very, very important. Same way, the what you call the participation of the sampling units is also very, very important as far as what you call the information gathering is concerned. So what you call these the three factors that are going to influence as far as the sampling procedures are concerned. What is that? The sampling procedure, the sample size, the participation. So when might you sample the entire population? This is one more problem when you are understanding the what you call sampling methods. So a sample is nothing but the collection of what you called few items conveniently from what you call the entire population. Strictly speaking, a sample is nothing but the subset of the population itself. But the problem arises every time, is it what you call advisable to go for a what you call sample taking or else to apply the sampling methods? Or else will it be good to go for what you call a complete enumeration of the population? That means all the units of the population will be what you called understand for getting the information individually. What do you call that? Complete enumeration. Technically you call that the census. Sample census. These two things are very, very important when you are going to understand about the population. Remember that always whether to use the sample method or else what you call the census method, it's all depends upon the nature of the population. If the population is of precious items, if the population is having what you called life-saving drugs, understand? Then the advisable activity is not sampling but go for what you call the census. Because just by what you call testing on one or two drugs, it's very difficult to judge the quality of what you call all the drugs. Because if any unwanted thing happens, the person who actually going to have that particular medicine sometimes may lose the life itself. That means the sample or the census procedure based upon completely nature of the population. Let us take what you call the blood test. So when you go for what you call, generally you will be observing the present situation. If you concern everybody without their effort, we are going to acquaint most of the times the lifestyle diseases. What is that? The sugar, BPs. Understand? So to detect the sugar, what is required? We required blood sample. Now when you go to a diagnostic center, you will be observing how the blood sample is going to be taking. There actually the technician is using sample method or else what you call the census method. Let us suppose that there the technician uses the census method. You can easily guess what are the results are going to be. The person is not at all going to survive. So in a blood sample test, the census procedure means squeezing out all the blood from the body of the patient, the person, and then go for testing the blood group or else what you call some other what you call things to be detection. So here the best procedure is to go for application of the sample. Small amount of blood will be collected from that respective person, and through that blood test, the entire problems of that particular person is going to be detected. This example is going to be what you called clear the doubts between the sample and as well as the census. So what I want to say, whether to use the sample methods or else what you call going for census method, it's completely depends upon the population. Now we discuss the important statistical terms as well as the sampling theory is concerned. What is that? The population. So I already clearly explained. So here what is the definition says? In any statistical investigation, a study is made with respect to one or more characteristics relating to individuals belonging to group. This group of individuals is called population, or else what is that one more name? Universe. Example, all retail shops in a region, automobiles in a city. Understand? All these becomes what you call the population. Then what do you mean a sample? A sample is nothing but the subset of the population. So from the entire population, if you consider what you call small part and you are going to test on that sample to understand about the population, what you call the sampling method. Census, the complete enumeration of the population is called census. So you all know very well, after every 10 years in India, this is going to be a big activity throughout India. So from every department, the persons will be deployed to collect census information. Census information here means population information. To understand the particular region, population, male, female, to understand the what you call the income levels. All this information is very much useful for the government for policy making. So there they what you call, if they go for applying the sample method, most of the times the results are not going to be satisfactory. Just by knowing the facts and figures of Hyderabad, can you judge that in the Chennai also only these many people are going to be, these many people are there? In Bangalore, only these many people are there. No, you cannot do that. In such a occasion, what is the best thing to resort? Better to go for census. So it will be in the hands of the investigator, statistical investigator, to select a sample or else to go for a census after understanding the basic nature of the population. Target population, the population to be studied to which the investigator wants to generalize his results. So previously what I told you, if you want to understand the Bajaj company, the mileage actually given by their respective what you call auto rickshaws, that too in Hyderabad, the entire Hyderabad auto rickshaws becomes what you call the target population. If what you call MNCs want to judge quality kind of education provided, what you call the postgraduate, that to management, what you called people of certain university, understand? So all the management, what you call people, I mean say students of that university becomes a population. So what you call that strictly the target population. Sampling unit. the smallest unit from which sample can be selected. That means in this auto rickshaws example, every auto rickshaw becomes the sampling unit. In the university case, all the students are going to be what you called the sampling unit, from which actually the desired information can be extracted. The sampling frame, the list of all the sampling units from which sample is drawn. So if you list out all the students, all the auto rickshaws, all the supermarkets, all the two-wheelers, from where actually you are about to what you call extract the information, all those units, club of all those units, group of all that units become sampling frame. Sampling scheme. Method of selecting a sampling unit from sampling frame. That means which we are considering the sampling units to extract the information. That technique, that procedure is known as the sampling scheme. So these are few of the very, very important definitions as far as the sampling methods or sampling techniques are concerned. Now here we are going to understand why actually sampling is required. The main purposes are like this. The first one is the less cost. Every time if you go for what you call getting information from each and every unit of the population, it leads to huge expenditure. But whereas through the sampling, what you are doing from the entire population, you are just picking a small part. From that part, you are conducting all the research, you are generalizing that information to all other what you called entire population. So what is the meaning of that? You are what you call saving, less expenditure would be there. So that is the first purpose for what you call going for a sampling. Less field time, this is most important. So rather than money, time is going to be more precious to anyone. So through the enumeration, what is enumeration? If you understand, if you get information from every unit of the population, it's lead to what you call more time consumption. So in order to save the time, what is required? Better to go for sampling. More accuracy. Sometimes the information whatever provided by the samples are going to be more accurate than what you call getting information through a what you called census. And one more reason to go for a sampling is nothing but when it's impossible to study the whole population. In few kinds of researches, it's very difficult to find the whole population. When it's impossible to identify the population itself, will it be possible to go for complete enumeration? Never. Then the best thing is go for sampling. So these are the advantages of what you call going for a sampling. So what are those? Less cost, less field time, more accuracy, and sometimes when difficult to find whole population. What are the characteristics of a good sample? When you say the chosen sample is a good sample, will it be there ISI mark? Will it be there any what you call brand name? No, every sample will be considered a good sample whenever that possesses these characteristics. The first one is the representativeness. The sample units of a sample should be true representative of what you call the entire population. if you are understanding what you call the two-wheeler problems of a certain city, let us suppose that city A, rather than what you called finding the problems of city A two-wheelers, if you get information city B two-wheelers, what happens? The information is going to mismatch, it leads to what you call erroneous data. That should not happen. So based upon the population, you need to pick the sample from that population only. You should not consider the sample from what you call that population which is not at all related to the problem under study. This characteristic is very, very important. The sample, whichever selected by you, I mean to say the researcher, should true representative of the population. Adequacy. Let us suppose that you are going to, understand about the intelligence levels of 1,000 students. 1,000 students. So to study the intelligence levels of what we call the 1,000 students, let us suppose you are going to apply the sampling method, well and good. Then how much my sample should be? Out of 1,000 students, if you understand the intelligence levels of only 5 students, let us suppose, and if you make a assumption that all what we call these 1,000 students are highly intelligent students, will it be going to be a good judgment? No. So or else if you pick the 50 students, all those 50 students' information can be generalized to the entire population, I mean to say 1,000 students. Sometimes may not. What do you call that? Adequacy. So based upon the size of the population, you need to apply few scientific methods. What should be the size of the sample also? So based upon that, what will be there? The information, whatever you are going to extract from the sample, generalization will lead you the exact results. Independence. This is one more very, very important characteristic. The samples, whatever you are going to select from the population, should not be dependent on each other. Because if dependency arises, again it leads to what we call mismatch in the conclusions. Hence, the selected sample should be independent. And also, homogeneous in nature, homogeneity. Understand? If heterogeneity arises, what will be there? Again, it leads to distraction as far as what we call the data collection is concerned. So, these are the characteristics of a good sample. So, what are those? The representativeness, adequacy, independency, and as well as the homogeneity. So entire sampling methods, techniques showed in this wonderful picture. So let us suppose that this big circle is population under study. So you are studying about this population. For that, what you are doing, just you are picking from this circle the sample. You have conducted the studies, got the results, but those results you are generalizing to this bigger circle. Understand? So what you call this? The target population. So you are studying a district from a Telangana state. So here the Telangana state becomes the population under study. And you are understanding about what you call some kind of parameters of the people who are living in what you call, let us suppose, Hyderabad district itself. This information you are generalizing throughout India, that India becomes your target population. So by sampling, what you are doing here, you are saving the time, you are saving valuable resources. So this is what actually the purpose of going for a sampling. Okay. Now we discuss the types of sampling. As far as sampling is concerned, there are two types. One type are known as the probability sampling or else a random sampling. One more type are non-probability sampling, non-random sampling or else a deterministic sampling. So under probability sampling, you are going to give equal importance to all the units of the population. There is no personal judgment or else what you call, there is no any personal recognition for any what you called sampling unit to be involved into your sample. But whereas under non-probability sampling methods, these are exclusively based upon what you called the researcher and his or her objectivity. Based upon their opinion only, these sampling units will be there. Most of the times, the results whatever are going to be established by using the probability sampling methods are error-free. But whereas the results whatever are going to be what you called established based upon the non-probability sampling methods are going to be what you called ineffective. So these two are known as what you call the types of sampling. What are those? The probability sampling or is a random sampling. Now one more type are non-probability sampling or non-random sample or else what you call the deterministic sampling. Okay. So in the next class we are going to discuss various methods to select a probability sample and as well as various methods which are available to pick a non-probability sample. Thank you.